which is fine. That's part of being alive, I guess. I really wanted to work on my new book. It's not the first book I've written, but it's the first related book, and it's called "Bridging the Gap Between Homeowners and Their Homes." That's our motto: bridging the gap between homeowners and their homes. And I also wanted to do. I wanted to plunge myself deeply into some different subject matters that I wanted some more information about that I thought were important. This time away has been very good because it would make my offering to you stronger, whether it's here on the air together, live, or maybe on television, or it's in print, or it's on the website. And we're still forming that, but I believe that's live. Logan is our chief technologist, and I'm grateful to have Logan, honest, straight, one of the smartest guys I know. And I think our website, I think the one we're using now is bridgingthegapwithwes.com. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, you want to send an email, you've got suggestions, there's something you'd like me to cover, and I got it wrong last week. I went to a public school. You got to forgive me. It's going to be, and it's very easy, Wes at Radio Wes. How easy is that? Wes at Radio Wes. I'm not the guy that throws a bunch of phone numbers at you, a bunch of websites. Most of you are not sitting there with a pencil and a paper to jot down every word I said. I'm sure there are a few. There's serial killers everywhere. So a lot of you know me as a former artist, songwriter, guitar slinger. My whole life seems to be about writing, which is interesting because I didn't do very well in English. Then I would later go to writing commercials and campaigns for some large brands. Did Lumber Liquidators, did Hunter Fans, James Hardy Building Products, and then, believe it or not, a breakfast cereal. Ruben's looking at me. You're kidding. All right. So, and then now we're doing books, and this is the first book in the series. Second book is also in the Bridging the Gap series, and all of them are going to be related to the things that they're going to improve your quality of life. So when we come back, we've got about a minute or so. Let me get my clock right. Remember, we're driving a new ship here. When we come back, I want to talk about two different subjects. One of them is related to products or services. It's related to the people associated to those products and services. We're going to talk about price. And this is all going to be very critical for you. Now we're going to talk about the most important thing, and that's the processes. Okay? Product, price, people, and the processes. And I'm going to give you some good examples, and I'll have my coffee and maybe kind of loosened up by that time. And then we're going to talk today about something that I think it's just ingrained in us, and it's called cheaping out. What does it mean to cheap out? We're going to talk about that. It's going to be a good show. I'm so glad to be here. Get your coffee. Stay bundled up. I'm Wes Taylor. We'll be right back. Before we get into the wrap-up from where we started with products, pricing, people, and processes, I want to, where this started is that if you think about it, everything important to you comes together there in your home, doesn't it? I mean, there's no golf course there, probably not doing church there. Those are pretty important things, and not specifically in that order. But your home is where you celebrate. It's where you hug your kids. It's where you bond in your relationships with your family or with your neighbors. Okay? It's what hosts your extended family. Now, here's another thing. Those of you who know grief, and if you're a human being, you certainly do, or if you know trauma, and if you're a human being, most of you certainly do. I do. I know both of them. What I'm absolutely sure of is that when you leave the house and you close the door behind you, the world is not going to stop for your broken heart, is it? And it's not going to high-five you. It's not going to high-five you and give you the big accolade for that huge accomplishment that you just had. You celebrate those things at the house. You grieve in private at home, right? I think it's the only place on earth where you can dance, naked in water and not get arrested for it. I may be wrong there too. So your house and home, we're working under the supposition that everything important to you comes together. And house and home, okay, I want to make sure I make the distinction between those two. So in my world and in your world, a house is a structure. So is a condominium. So is an apartment. So is a townhouse or a micro house, or if you're living in your van. Each one of those is home. So you go out, you're on the night on the town, you come home, you get out of your car, hit the little button, the little thing goes off, the car's locked for the night, you walk up your sidewalk, put your key in the door, open the door, walk inside, you turn around, you close the door and say, sure is good to be condominium. That's not what you say, is it? It's good to be where? That's right, it's good to be home. I want to make that distinction. Now, in the world of real estate, hey, let's sell your home. Well, we give you some leeway there. That's a lot easier than having to distinguish between a house and home and an apartment and a van. So house and home, those are two very different things. Ruben, I don't know if I told you this, but I think I signed off last week that I was going to the beach. There's a place that I just am particularly fond of, and it's down near Gulf Shores. Go way down the peninsula of Fort Morgan and just get a beautiful big house, and you're right on the water. And went down there, just got back, had a great time with a great friend. And all right, so let's get back to product, price, people, and processes. So as a consumer, or even in the place where you work, let's talk about the products you're going to buy, the services you're going to hire. Does it work? That's the first question. Does it work? It's pretty simple. Does it work once? Does it work for a week? Or does it work for a year? Well, it doesn't matter if you paid $7 for the watch and it only works for a year. But if you're paying for a water heater or a new roof, it needs to last longer than a week or a year, doesn't it? I put a note here to speak about as seen on TV. Everybody just lit up, didn't they? You don't even need coffee if we're going there. As seen on TV. I love those gadgets. They got the nose hair trimmer that's also a flashlight. And if you get it real close to where you're pointing it, it catches it on fire. But it also keeps your beverages cold if you're out in the woods. That thing works great once. Or it works great for about 30 seconds until the battery goes out. Right? We've got a company A, and they install water heaters. You need a water heater. Let's just use a traditional tank water heater. And the guy comes in, he puts it in for $1,400. You've got another company that's highly recommended. They're great. They're capable. They're going to come in and they're going to put it in for $3,600. Which one do I choose? Because I'm always encouraging, let's not look at price. In this case, I'm going with the $1,400 one. Okay. Let's and I'm going to use roofing as an example a little bit later in the show here. If the products are pretty much the same and the people are pretty much the same and you're getting right through to them and so forth and their processes are good, I'll go with the $1,400 guy unless I know that $1,400 water heaters, they tend to go out after a year. I'm going to pay double and the thing's going to last me 20 years. So when it comes to the price, I'm looking for value, okay? I'm not just looking at the price tag. I want to talk about the third one, which is people. You got a great product. It's priced really well, and your people are awful. You're waiting for the example? I'm going to give it to you. When I first got here about 30 years ago, I went straight to Music Row and really more on the Green Hills side. That Kroger, and everybody knows Green Hills Kroger, and if you remember it back then, I mean, people were pushing their carts out the doors, turning around screaming, you people are awful. And I couldn't believe how bad the employees were at that place. It's not like that anymore. That changed pretty quickly. I found, I'm going to be real careful here. I've been to some different chiropractors, as I'm getting to the age now where I've been an athlete my whole life, or I've had a guitar strapped around me, or you've been a builder, where I'm starting to have the back issues and the neck issues, just like everybody does if you've been an athlete or anything like that. And I'm saying that to you middle-aged people who are now thinking you want to be cross-country marathoners. You're going to pay for it, I promise. So I've been looking for the right set of professionals to help me with my back. I've got Dr. Paul McCombs. Known him 30 years. He is one of the most amazing spine and brain surgeons, probably in the Southeast, maybe the country. I'm lucky to have him. He's looking into this and spearheading this. Also went for decompression therapy with a chiropractor. And I have worked for years to find the right one. And you walk into their offices and they say, yeah, well, we can cure this. Well, it's cancer. Yeah, we can cure that. We just need you to sign up for $20,000 of treatments. I found what I believe to be the most knowledgeable, the best chiropractor. Started the therapy. The price was great. The location, a little bit far away, but the person with whom I have to interact there is the most foul, awful person I've ever encountered. I cannot believe, I'm not going to say he or she, or he, she. It's the worst service I've ever had. And it got so intolerable that I called the doctor and I said, listen, this is so important to me. This is an investment. I'm not going to be treated this way. This person does not belong in healthcare, okay? Unless it's a Turkish prison system. Now, when I say the word offering, I'm referring to the product or the service. And I'm referring to the people from the top down, okay? I'm talking about the price. Is it competitive or not? Now, we're going to get to the most important one, and that's the process, okay? We see a lot of that lately. I think it's only temporary. I really do. At least I hope so. What is it like to, and I've got a couple good examples. What's it like to buy the product? What's the process? Am I in an endless voice loop? It's going to take me 10 minutes to get to a human being, and then it disconnects on me, all right? Or I finally do get a hold of somebody, and I find that they're booked out a month or 2 months or whatever. I'm not going to stand in line like an inmate. Here's my money. I've got it. Here's $3,500, whatever you need. Here it is. I'm not going to beg to buy the product. And if it's this hard to buy your product, imagine what it's going to be like when I got a problem with the product. So we've got the product or the service. We've got the price. We've got the people. And then we have the process. And I used to use one company in particular for an example, and it was Comcast. You guys remember that? And I felt that the service had gotten so bad that they had to change their name. So now I'm not going to single them out. I'm going to include AT&T. I'm going to include Sprint, the great communications companies. So the price is competitive. They got the internet seems to work. TV works pretty well most of the time. People seem pretty helpful, right? But the process is usually the one that suffers. And so like you call in and you're going to end up overseas somewhere. And I don't know who writes their scripts for them, but they're like, Mr. Taylor, how are you today, Mr. Taylor? Mr. Taylor, we're glad you called, Mr. Taylor. Like, that's great. We're sorry you're having trouble, Mr. Taylor. How are you today, Mr. Taylor? And by this time, you're irritated. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I just spent the week in depositions because my dogs did something. My daughter dropped out of Harpeth Hall and my son out of Montgomery Bell. They joined a traveling group of hipsters making money on making wicker baskets. I think my wife's with the Cuban pool boy, which surprises me because I look just like him. And I've been in Williamson Medical Center for 3 days with an E. coli blood infection. I'm doing fine other than that. I just want to catch the Notre Dame-Ohio State game, you know? Yes, Mr. Taylor. We're sorry that you've been having this problem, Mr. Taylor. And it's almost like an evil James Bond voice after he's been conked out and he wakes up in the room and he doesn't have his gun. He's looking around, a voice just comes out of nowhere. Mr. Taylor. And I'm thinking, you're expecting me to talk? No, Mr. Taylor, we expect you to die. That's kind of what it feels like. I'm not going to go into my Nathan R. Jessup, Jack Nicholson, A Few Good Men thing. I'll do that some other time. So, related to bridging the gap between homeowners and their homes, I'm an advanced house expert, but I'm also your neighbor, okay? I'm on both sides. I'm like you. I pay for the end services. As a developer, real estate developer, as a builder, I'm just doing it on a massive scale. And rather than being a dentist or turn this to me being a veterinarian or a math teacher, which I couldn't do anyway because I went to public school, I'm dedicated to bridging this gap between the world of products and services and contractors and the processes. That's what we're about, the processes. Between that and the homeowner, the end user. And in our time together, I'm going to cover every chapter that's in my new book and more. The new book is called Bridging the Gap Between Homeowners and Their Homes. Isn't that ironic? How did I get that name? Very creative. You can get the book at Amazon. And I think I'm learning how this publishing thing works. They buy a bunch of books, and if they don't sell them, because we did pull it off for a brief time to do some adjustments, and the book went down to like $5 or something. You better snatch it while you can. And that thing, the book was not designed as something that you just read in casual reading, and it's a good romance novel, or it's about Peyton Manning, or no, it's designed basically as the owner's manual for your house. Okay, In there, I tell you things that nobody ever really told you. These are basic, simple things, and it's designed to increase your quality of life. I don't compete with other books. I'm competing with that housewarming gift, that bottle of wine, as the commercial said. And she did a great job. I think she's out of New Orleans somewhere. Really fond of our contingency down in Louisiana. But if you're going to give a housewarming gift to your son or your daughter or your client, for you realtors, you mortgage people, I know a book isn't real sexy. I get that. But the bottle of wine is down in four glasses, or some of my friends, it's gone in one big glass. And you get a dinner coupon, or here's a steak dinner or something like that. It's gone. As soon as you eat it, it's done. This here, it just keeps giving because it increases your quality of life. And I felt it was important to address these things. I've got some great clients. Used to be strictly a builder, strictly developer. I never worked for anybody else. And when that Great Recession hit, I had to throw a tool belt on for a little while. And I got to meet some great people, and I got to see what was it like to be out there in the world saying, well, okay, you need a deck, or you need a new kitchen, or you need, you're ready to do some bathrooms, and we need some repairs. To put those together, so instead of building $1 million budget, and if the economy stops, that's on me. And instead, they're paying for it. How good of a steward am I going to be with their money? Well, I've been in their shoes. We're going to be honest with them. I really don't do it anymore. I don't mind counseling people and friends and so forth. And I learned during that time what it was like to interact as a contractor. Well, it's funny now. I've been on both sides of it. And I'm that guy in the neighborhood who, like if you're a lawyer on the street, you got your neighbors come up with that one quick question. Hey, listen, I got an issue and this and that. It's related to an estate, or this guy hit me in his car, and my insurance company is this and that. Just that lawyer. It's just that one quick question. It's never just a quick answer. Then you got the doctor. Listen, my shoulder kind of hurts, or I can't stop sneezing, or whatever your problem is. Well, I was that guy on the street. Hey, Wes, I got just one quick question. And of course, I don't mind that. I loved it. I loved interacting with them. And that's where I really started to learn the forensics. And the forensics here, well, in the police world, it means putting all the little pieces and parts. Who did it? How'd they do it? When did they do it? And in the world of the house and the home, the forensics means, okay, let's go back to the roof leak. I see a yellow spot. Wait a minute. That yellow spot is gray. It was yellow when we saw it a month ago. It's gray now. Okay, so we got a problem. It's gray. There's mold. That means we got a buildup of water. Now let's go up in the attic. Let's take a look around. Well, I'm looking at the spot, but there's nothing above it that looks like a roof leak. So I'm going to walk over here and walk over there. Remember, gravity. You got water follows gravity. I go over here, and I find out the water's coming from here. It's on the other side of the house. That's what I mean by the forensics. And I got to learn the forensics and really every aspect of it. Learned an awful lot about foundations and basements, because right now, that's 10 years ago, the hot buzzword was mold. Remember, everybody was afraid of mold. Well, mold's been around. You breathed more mold on your way home than you did at home. Right now, the buzzword, as you know, is foundations. Everybody's doing foundation repair, needing foundation repair. Why? I'm always about the why. Well, because as these houses were built, and I cover this in the book, as these foundations for all these houses en masse, these neighborhoods being built in the 1950s and 60s, it wasn't like they were real careful about where they put the houses. They got a big tract of land. They put a bunch of houses there. And the houses were built really, really well. And most of the time, it's not, in fact, almost all the time, it's not a contractor's fault or the concrete guy or the foundation guy's fault that the foundation is cracking. It's probably because the soil at that end of the house is different than the soil at the other end of the house. We're going to do shows about that as well. The forensics. I want to get into the forensics. Now, I want to get back to what we were talking about earlier about cheaping out, okay? What does that mean, cheaping out? Each of you are kind of coming up with a different thing, but basically we're coming up with the same thing. So, and I use that term a lot because I hate when people cheap out. It's all about the money. Bro, don't cheap out, dude, right? And I've come to the resolve that cheaping out is just human nature. It wasn't always that way. But our society and prominence and care and warmth and wealth is based on money, isn't it? I think it's human nature to cheap out. I want the better price. Your water heater is $1,400. His is $1,350. I'm going with him, saving the $50. And you didn't look at anything else, did you? Did you call the references? Is he licensed? She licensed? Is there insurance in effect? Okay. How are they with the Better Business Bureau? There's a lot of things I might be wanting to pay that extra $50. I bet you Native Americans, hunter-gatherers, I bet you they didn't cheap out. Yes, they were built on barter system, and I'll give you 4 hides in exchange for a horse, or however they did it. But I really bet they didn't cheap out, because if they did, their survival was in jeopardy, right? Today in business, we call that their exposure, their liability. I'll take the cheap arrow. Give me the cheap arrows. That's what I want. And I don't need a real buffalo hide. I got one here from China. It's made out of polyester. I'll take that one. That didn't exist back then. And I know that the Pilgrims didn't cheap out. We're not going to stop until we find clean water. Walk into the store and say, hey, I need the cheapest water. Where's the cheapest water? Well, it's out there in the middle of the street. It's a puddle. Whoops, you missed it. The horse just stepped in it. Right? Why do we cheap out? Modern society, right? Competition in the marketplace. I have a great friend, a great client, who recently taught me about, I almost hate to admit this on the air, taught me about towels. Why do my towels just sort of push the water around my body and never really dries me off? I go over there, wash my hands are dry instantly. I didn't realize that if I spend $2 more for a towel, it works for the next several years the way it's intended. And here I am cheaping out on towels. So I do it too. But when it comes to your property, this could be your business, could be your house, might be your townhouse, might be your condominium. I don't want us to ever get into the mindset of cheaping out. The first thing I want us to look at is, who am I dealing with? Okay? That's the most important thing. We went into that last week. Who's going to be working on this property? That's the most important thing to me. These people are going to be feet away from my 12-year-old daughter, or, as I said last time, my 7-year-old kid in his soccer outfit. Who's here? That's the most important thing to me. Second most important thing to me, who's looking me in the eye and asking questions? What am I trying to solve here? Does this person care? That's the second most important thing. Because if he does or she does, they're going to care about my wallet. They're going to care about my belongings, right? That's what I'm looking for. And I'm not going to bug them about a price. And we talked about the bid process last week. What a disaster, the bid process. Put a big target on you, said, I don't know anything about what we're getting into here. It's the only place where the owner actually has some control over something. There we go again, cheaping out. Take the high bid, throw that out. Take the low bid, throw that out. Right there in the middle, that's your guy. Is it really? Is that what you do to your doctor? Well, you got a heart problem. You're going to need heart surgery. Well, I want you to submit a bid. I'm going to take the middle bid. And I don't want you to cheap out on your house or your home or your property. That's your HVAC system. Yes, this one costs $3,000, that one costs $5,000. Maybe there's one for $4,000. I don't know. Remember, I'm not looking at the price first. And then I find out that I'm going to have to replace this one after 10 years. The other one, I'm going to get 20 years out of it, maybe even 25. And by the way, the warranties are great. And I love the people. I'm willing to pay a little bit more here. Or in this case, maybe $1,000 more. It's better than 10 years down the road having to do it again. Or your conscience, sell the house and have somebody else go through it. When it comes to plumbing, same thing. I don't get the cheapest faucets. A lot of people do. There's a big market for them. Boy, they look good. We'll put them in a rental property. It's just a rental. Remember last week? If it's just a rental, all you're going to get is just a renter. I don't have to have opulence, guys. This isn't Malibu. I like Delta. I do. Their parts, they seem to last a long time, except in one case I know from a friend. You can always get pieces and parts for them. You've got your bath hardware, same thing. I don't want to be replacing washers every 6 months. So I'm willing to pay. And like I said, guys, we're not looking that you have to always go out and buy the Cadillac. You don't have to do that. Let the people in Malibu have the Lamborghini. I'd like a good Chevy or a good Toyota, a good used Toyota, if you can even find one these days. I think we got about another minute or left. In my book, I write about consequences. Okay, I'm going to go into that a little bit here in the fourth quarter, but consequences. Every behavior that we do is driven by our thoughts, our decisions. Our behaviors have consequences, and that applies to everywhere in life. Guys, welcome back to Right at Home Radio. I'm Wes Taylor. I am Ruben's sidekick for this 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock hour. Soon we're going to blow this thing into a 2-hour deal, take your calls. I think that's the best way for us to get close. When I was first asked to come back on the air, and the brass ring, obviously, Saturday mornings, we've got a huge listenership, and it's the demographics are mostly male. I think that's like 51%. It's growing. Average income, 125,000 a year. We have some really, really, really smart people here. And there was no way I was going to pre-record something, during the week, because I'm busy too, believe me, and then just have it air. There's no way. I want to be here. And I know it's not perfect. You hear me and you hear me slurping on my coffee, and I may do it intentionally really loud just to irritate you, because that's what I do. I'm here to serve. And I'm so glad that we could do this thing live. And I heart talking to my buddies back home in Denver where I grew up. I was born in the South. I will be buried in the South, but spent a lot of years growing up in Denver. My friends are listening there. Probably have them on air because they are big shots in what they do, and it applies. Today we're talking about, we started off with the products and the prices of those products and the people behind those products, and then the processes of getting getting that. And I want to use another really great example is that I ran into a great salesperson. It was related to the water business. I'm going to get reverse osmosis at the house. And the install date was forever, guys. I missed it. It wasn't their fault. But they're putting me back in the line. I got to wait another month. Forget it. So I got my own system. I'm going to put it in this weekend. We then switched gears to this thing called cheaping out. Okay? I'm going to sew this all together here in this fourth quarter. Be like a quilt made by your mom and them. Remember we went into that. So you got two different roofing companies, all right? And you think that this one roof that's going to be $6,000 and this other roof is going to be $5,500, okay? It's pretty close. They kind of look the same. They all drive the same kind of trucks. We're going to go with the cheaper one because that's what we're trained to do. We're going to cheap out, right? Remember what from last quarter? What's the most important? What's the first thing I look at? I want to know who's going to be there. What's the second most? Is this person on my page? Is this contractor on my page? The good ones are on your page before you even know it. And they're going to ask other questions to get to know what is it you want? What is it you're expecting? Because you're looking at these two roofing companies, guys. You're not looking at two apples or two oranges. You're not looking at. In fact, you're not even looking at. You're looking at an apple and another inanimate object. These two companies, and I know that my contractor friends are cheering me on right now. You homeowners should too. Okay. So here's the first company. They come in. This guy or this roofing contractor, you got the materials. You bought the nice roofing materials, and there's a 50-year or 40 or 20-year warranty on there. That warranty is no good unless the installer is certified by that roofing material company. What is it, GAF or Owens Corning? That's right. They have specific roofers because that roof and none of it's going to hold up if it's not put on correctly. A roof is not an item. A roof is a system. It's like your foundation. It's not just the Brico block or CMU control moisture units. It's not just the blocks, and it's not just the footer beneath it, and it's not the rebar that's down there. It's a system. It doesn't work if all of it doesn't work. It's that same way with a roof. So you've got this really highly qualified roofing contractor who's going to be being able to honor this warranty. Okay, comes highly recommended, and the roof is $6,000. Right now, that's a small roof. That's Creve Hall or something like that. And you're not going to cheap out in materials. If you're going to spend whatever it is, the $2,500, you might as well spend the $2,800 and get the best. Right? You only have to do this once. Hopefully, you're only going to have to do it once. Now you got this other company that's $5,500. Boy, did that sound southern. $5,500. Okay, that's the one we're going with. We saved the $500. We're going to put it in Johnny's Education Fund, aren't we? Oh, we're going down to Fort Morgan. We're going to stay next to Wes because he's got great bourbon. Is that what yeah, I know what you're thinking. Ruben's looking at me. His eyebrows just went up. Really? Yes, you are welcome to come at any time you want. We got steaks for you coming out of Louisiana. We got Cajun food. We got it.
Hey, I'm ready. Ready like Freddie.
Great. We'll be leaving at 2:00 this afternoon. So call Scooter and tell him you'll be leaving.
Okay.
Let's talk about this $5,500 roof. Okay, it's a system. Your roof is comprised of the decking. Okay, it's comprised of the framing and the rafters underneath that decking. Then you got your layer of roofing paper. You got your gutters. You've got your valleys where two different surfaces on two different angles meet. You've got the shingles. You've got the nails. You've got vent stack. You got your vent boots. You know what that is? You know those pipes that come out of your roof? What are those? That's how your plumbing works. Not your personal plumbing. It's how your toilets drain, and it's how your sinks drain, and so forth. Those rubber boots, that's part of the roofing system. Up there on the peak, what's that strange thing that looks kind of dimensional? Okay, that's your ridge vent. That's how the hot air escapes out the top. Now let's go through the process of what this $5,500 roofer is going to do for you. And kind of keep me posted on time there, Ruben, because I'm getting ready to let loose in here. All right, brother. So, the starter row. Let's get into it. Here comes your team of roofers. They're putting on the starter row. That's the first row. Okay? Are they going to put that on correctly? Because remember, their guy is going to come along. He's going to cut it all nice and evenly with the plywood decking underneath it. Okay, that needs to be replaced immediately because it's supposed to hang down into the gutter, right? If that's not put on correctly, the water's not going to reach the gutter, or most of it. It's going to go down behind the gutter, right? It's going to hit the fascia. That's the board that the gutter's attached to, the horizontal board. And then it's going to start filling up the soffit. What's the soffit? Well, you go outside, stand next to the side of your house, and look up. You're looking at the soffit. Okay. And it's so if the starter row is not on correctly, now, about a year down the road, or 2 years, you start noticing everything starts sagging and discoloring and the wood separating. That's right, because they put the starter row on incorrectly. Okay? Now, you've been by a construction site recently. You hear these guns going off. Pow, 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 pow. And that's these people who don't know how to fire a roofing nail into a shingle. You got 45 nails into a shingle, pow, 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 and they're just going to town. The problem also is these guys came off of a framing crew. So their compressors, the air under pressure that's working that nail gun is really, and it's broken, they all are, it's set at a certain PSI to send a 3-inch steel ring shank nail into hardwood.